everybody. This is Angela, and you're listening to Homeschool Unrefined, the podcast where we keep homeschool simple, real, and fun.
This is Maren. You've got episode 91, where we work. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But first, we just want to say hello to all of you people who've been listening to us for a long time and new listeners. We're so glad you're here.
We are, and this is the podcast where we hope to change the conversation about homeschool. We hope to leave you feeling like you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And hopefully you feel like you maybe could take some things off your plate instead of adding more to your plate after you listen to us.
Exactly. Yep. We want to be here to help you think differently about homeschool, and not think of it as a list of things you have to do.
Right.
But get to maybe pick some things that you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And a special hello to our Patreon supporters. We are going to start giving our Patreon supporters shout outs in our episodes.
Yes.
We hope you're okay with that. Patrons. Surprise. That would make me kind of cringy.
Would it?
A little bit. I mean,
sorry, everybody.
I hope it doesn't make you cringy. I hope you're happy with it. We're just going to say your first name. And then if you become, as we get new Patreon supporters, we'll just give you a quick shout out at the beginning of the episode. So Thank you, Jenna, Emily, Christina, Kate, Katie, Amy Lee, Jesse, Shaole, Jenny, Bethany, Aaron, Nicola, Christy, Maggie, Eileen, Amanda, Lisa, Vanessa, and Lindsay. We are so thankful for your support. And if you are interested in getting extra bonus episodes, you can become a Patreon supporter if you go to patreon.com/homeschoolunrefined.
Yes. Thank you so much for supporting us. And we have loved getting to know all of you. All right. So we want to do a little update today because we have so many things we are ongoing that we just have ongoing conversations.
Yeah.
That we need to continue. I feel like some of these things we just have to continue on the air because we started them here.
Yeah.
For example, some podcasts that we've been listening to.
Right. Yeah. So last week, my loving this week was Slow Burn.
Yes.
Season 2. And about the Clinton presidency.
Mm-hmm.
And Maren then texted me a day or two later, and you said, I'm hooked on Slow Burn Season 2.
So hooked.
I want to hear what you think.
Okay, so we drove up north this weekend, and my kids all are listening to things, their own things in the car. So I just listen to my own thing in the car, and it's great. I'm loving this. A road trip tradition of ours now. So I listened to like the whole season.
Oh, wow.
I was going up and back.
So there's only like 6 or 7 episodes out now?
6 now, and I think there's going to be a total of 8.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So I played the whole thing. It was it's just so interesting because, like you said, when the whole Clinton Monica Lewinsky scandal thing happened, we were young adults.
Yeah.
Very young adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
and we just weren't that interesting. I mean, it was definitely scandalous and interesting, but I wasn't that interested in the details behind it.
Oh yeah, and I didn't really realize what were the implications of all this, and I just thought, oh, that's kind of scummy. I just not cool, and then I just kind of moved on, right?
Yeah.
But
right.
I mean, I thought it was so interesting how they talked about how really, if you want to talk about the Monica Lewinsky thing, then you have to really go back to, Clinton back when he was governor of Arkansas, and just the stuff that happened there that led to another thing, that led to another thing, that led to that, and so that was fascinating to me.
Right. Me too.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also I was also kind of, now looking back, I'm thinking Monica Lewinsky was really vilified.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And
I feel really bad about that.
I know. Me too.
She was 24.
Yeah.
And I know at the time I was 20, so I was like, well, she's old. Well, she knows what she's doing.
She's a grown woman.
Now I'm like, she was only 24. And he was in a position of power.
That's I mean, the power. Like
the most powerful position
in the world. And also she was infatuated with him. Yeah. You know, like she thought this was like real love. And you know, like she thought this was the real thing.
Yeah.
And so she got duped in a lot of ways, I think. So
it just makes me feel really icky, and I feel really bad for her because I don't know what she's doing now. I have not looked into that, but I mean, everybody knows her name and knows what happened, and this affected her whole life.
Totally.
Kind of feel bad about that.
Yeah, totally.
So,
I think it's also so interesting because now, especially in the last even 1 year, and how we as a country have like put women's rights on the forefront of our conversations, and like with the Me Too movement and Time's Up, like this is where we don't have tolerance for this anymore, for this kind of stuff. And I just think, what would happen? I mean, the interesting thing,
if this happened today, would it be any different?
But I mean, look at our president now. I mean, I just think, have we changed much? I don't think so. I mean, in some ways, no.
Yeah. So I would hope that people like me would think differently about it if it happened now.
Yeah.
Versus back then.
Me too.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. And so did you listen to season 1 then?
I just started season 1.
Oh, you did?
And I'm not as into it. But I do.
It's about Nixon. Season 1 is about Nixon and the Watergate scandal.
I did think did you listen to it?
I listened to like 1 or 2 episodes and then I dropped it. Yeah. And I don't know why. Yeah. I think I want to go back, but
I'm going to keep listening. But I thought the first episode especially was super interesting because it was part of the scandal that we never heard about, which was this woman who was kind of the whistleblower. And she doesn't even get talked about really in the whole history of this thing.
She was somebody's wife.
Yeah.
I'm vaguely remembering this because I listened probably 6 months ago. Yeah. She was some like politician's wife.
Yeah. And it was a guy who was on the committee to reelect the president's wife.
Okay.
Yeah. So and so her husband was like a huge supporter of Nixon, and then she, I mean, was really liked Nixon, but then she was very outspoken, and then she found out a lot of stuff through her husband, and then she started calling them out, and then
I don't remember. I need to go back. I do want to go back and listen.
Yeah, for sure. And they called her crazy at the time. I mean, they called her crazy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we do.
Yeah, right. And then later, after she died, even people realized like how important it was that she spoke out. So
yeah. Wow. Okay, and then are you still listening to Dax Shepard podcast?
I'm not as much anymore. I go through seasons of listening to that a lot and then not, and I'm kind of on the not right now.
Yeah, me too. Except one of our listeners, Erica, asked us if we listened to Catherine Hahn.
Yes.
On Dax Shepard, and I was like, Catherine Hahn, I gotta go listen to that because I like her from Bad Moms.
She was on Bad Moms.
And I don't know what else she's been in.
She was on Parks and Rec for a little while.
Oh, she was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I loved her on Parks and Rec. She, for those of you who don't know, if you watch Parks and Rec, she was an election, campaign, what do we call that? Advisor? Like a campaign advisor.
Okay.
From Washington, and she came to Pawnee. Anyway.
Okay.
Really good. So funny.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I was reminded, because I haven't listened to his podcast in a while, of why I like him, which is he gets very vulnerable with the guests.
Yeah, so true.
And he doesn't act like he knows everything.
Yep.
But he does talk about the things that he's passionate about. And so I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So I want to hear more about the interview with Catherine Hahn.
Well, what I found was interesting, what I liked about it was she's been married to her husband since they were like 20. Did you know that?
Whoa.
Yeah.
No.
And so they talked a lot about marriage, which I always appreciate, people being vulnerable and authentic when talking about marriage and talking about how it's really hard and they go to therapy a lot, but it's really good.
Yeah. And I know Dax and Kristen.
Yeah.
Go to therapy too.
Yeah.
You're like, I know them so well.
Right. Well, they're just open about it. So I just always appreciate that.
Yeah. Sure.
And you know, just I like hearing people's backstories, like where they came from, where they grew up.
Yeah.
And he talks about that a lot with them. Like
Yep.
and what their path was to this life. And so and then they talk about like her in Bad Moms and how that character was just like a really hard character to play. Because we had to care about her, but yet she was also like she was a bad mom.
Yeah. And
but
even
we
like
really
out of the 3 moms, she was like the worst mom.
Yeah, and she had like her part was just like one-liners the whole time.
That's true. Yeah.
And so it's hard to really get to know somebody or care about them through that. But she did a good job of that.
So.
Oh,
I can't wait.
It made me want to watch Bad Moms again. Not Bad Moms Christmas. Just the first one.
Angela, they were both bad movies. I think somehow you think the first one was better than the second one. No, they're both bad. I mean, they're funny. They're funny movies, but I think they're funny, but they both have bad plot. I mean, right? Aren't they? Help me out. No?
I liked the first one.
But you didn't like the second one? I mean,
no.
They're the same to me.
They were different, in my opinion. Someone back me up.
How are they different? I'm just wondering.
Well,
what you think?
I don't remember the plots. Okay.
That's okay. I think Bad Moms Christmas was a little raunchier.
It was a little inappropriate raunchy.
More inappropriate. Yes.
Like it crossed the line a few times for me.
Yeah. But the first one, totally fine. I know. It was. You're right about that.
I just think I like watching a group of like really funny women together in a movie.
I do too.
What that was.
I want more of those.
Oh, I know. So right now I'm taking what I can get.
Yep, I know. You're right. Good point. Point taken. I think that's great.
Okay, so there's another couple updates. We both love In the Dark.
Yes.
And we've done In the Dark season 2
on Patreon.
On Patreon if you're interested.
Because we loved it so much.
So into season 2.
Yeah.
Well, she had an update on season 2.
Oh my gosh, I cannot.
You haven't listened yet.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Don't give it away.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to give anything away. I mean, it's just she's just updating about how everybody's doing and where the case is and like how it's moving forward.
Okay.
So that was
great.
Really good.
Okay, so the case isn't over yet. It's not.
No.
Oh, okay.
Not over.
I was wondering.
He's appealing. There's an appeal.
Yeah.
I
held my breath when I found out that there was an update because I was like,
oh no.
Is a decision has been made and I don't even know if I want to know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
And then there's an update on season 1 that I didn't even just notice till a couple days ago, but I haven't listened because it's about the Jacob Wetterling case.
Yes, which is was 2 hours away from here.
I know.
In Minnesota.
Yeah, it was big for us growing up.
It really was. Yeah.
So that was a really interesting season for us, and they just released the files in that case. They just went public, which I did see that.
Okay.
I did hear that, but then they did an episode on that.
Okay.
So I'm excited to go back and listen to that.
Okay. Ooh, I cannot wait.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff to listen to.
I know.
Sometimes I feel like there isn't a lot of good stuff to listen to, and I'm searching for more stuff, and then when it rains, it pours.
It comes in waves. I know, you're right. Take it when it comes.
So we were thinking on Patreon that we would maybe have conversations about these things, like what we're listening to in podcasts, maybe what movies we're watching,
books,
and we did just do an episode on books, but maybe articles we're reading, stuff like that. Media we're consuming.
It's our working title.
We got to come up with something better than that.
Yeah, I do too. If anybody has any suggestions, we'll take them.
Okay.
Right.
So today we called this Where We Werk with an E.
Exactly. A little attitude.
Because we are thinking about Hamilton.
Yep.
The Schuyler sisters.
Yes.
And by this we mean more of we're all just hustling, basically.
Right. And I think, initially we wanted to talk about working homeschool parents. Parents who work, have a job outside of homeschool and outside of home. But we also decided this is very relevant to all of us because we all work. when we're homeschooling parents, we are parents. We're also getting in a lot of academics. Which is another whole job. And then we're also doing all the other things at home besides parenting, right? Like,
that go along with caring for a home.
Exactly. And that is a hustle. That's a hustle.
Right.
But we do also want to talk about just parents who are doing outside stuff, even, outside of that too.
Right. So you might be working outside of the home at a traditional job. We've heard from many of you who do that part-time, or even I've heard of people who do it full-time and homeschool. Or you might be working at home doing some kind of side gig that you either get paid for or you don't get paid for. Maybe you're working on something creative or something that's exciting to you or not while you are also homeschooling.
Right.
So we thought we would give that just have some conversations about that and talk about how we manage that.
Right. And it really has come to the forefront for us because we've really kind of ramped up our work on the podcast, probably over the summer especially. And now that we have incorporated homeschooling into that work, it's just a whole new ballgame. We're like balancing. We're working on it. And we thought this is a good time for us to process. And as you know, if you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, you know that we don't always show up here with a bunch of answers and, steps to,
tips.
Yeah, right. And you'll probably pick those up along the way as we talk. But also, this is a time just for us to process with you because a lot of problem solving, I think, happens in the processing.
Right. And also we want you to feel like, this is a thing that people do and people can do it and it's valid. And we just want you to feel like, you are not alone. And if you are interested in doing something other than homeschooling and being a parent, we wanted to encourage you that you can.
Right. Exactly. All right. So why don't we start out with the big why? Why would anyone work and homeschool their kids?
Okay.
Do you want to start, Angela?
Sure. Okay. I'll start about why I do.
Yes.
Okay. So I feel like, now I didn't do this for a long period of time. I would say 10 years at least. I did not do anything much creative outside of what I was doing at home.
Yep.
But I got to a point where I needed a creative outlet and I needed a place to be different.
Yes.
Like a different kind of person than I was at home being a parent and teaching.
Right.
Yeah. And I also want my kids to see me doing something that's fulfilling to me. That's really important to me, that they see me as something else. And I'm not just, I don't want to say just because that was the wrong language. I'm not solely there for them. Like I'm not solely my own. I don't want them to think that my sole job is to.
Right. Like I don't live to meet all your needs all the time, which I think is very easy to think,
Yeah.
I think
for kids and us.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I think there was definitely a season, and like I said, it was about 10 years long, where that's all I could do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I could have. I mean, I could have if I had to.
Right.
But it wasn't the best for me to do something else besides homeschooling and parenting because I mentally and emotionally couldn't handle more than that.
Yeah. And there was a long time for me where I always felt like I don't want to be the person who is, solely taking care of, these people all the time. I knew I needed something different, but also knew I wouldn't be able to handle a job necessarily. So, I very consciously took time to do other things. And yet, I like I like it. I like having this job now because it's I don't know what it is, but I feel like somebody else is depending on me to do this other thing outside of like parenting and cleaning and cooking or whatever. And just like, I like having a different kind of responsibility and exercising these other parts of my mind, you know, that I don't do when I'm taking care of these things at home. So yeah, I don't know what it is. So I've always tried to find outlets in other places besides just, not just, but like, besides the home, but also having a job makes it, I don't know, more tangible, I guess, or something.
Oh yeah. And I felt like when I would try to find things, other outlets, like you said, there wasn't, like you said, somebody depending on you to do them.
Yep.
And so they oftentimes didn't get done, or they would take the back seat.
Yes.
But with this job, there are other people depending on us. There are deadlines and, things we have to do. And so we have to, because of that, sometimes we have to be like, oh no, I have to go do this. This is important.
Yes.
Somebody else is depending on me.
Yeah, sometimes I think about it like, when I go to the chiropractor, because I've had this car accident. I had a car accident 3 years ago. Not a big deal, but I'm still like healing from that. I feel like, I go in and then they work on some problem, and then that gets better, but then my pain just kind of goes somewhere else. And they're often will say, well, that's good. That just means like you probably always had pain somewhere else. Your body just wasn't letting you know about that pain because this first pain was just the biggest pain. So
yeah,
the other place in your body that needed help, just they weren't screaming out for it. You know what I mean? So, and I think, and I'm not saying that families are problems or jobs are problems or anything, but what I mean is, being a parent, especially of young kids, that is a very intense and immediate need.
Yeah.
You're working so hard, and that's what's like screaming out at you. So you are taking care of that problem, or not a problem. You're taking care of that need. And so the other needs sometimes in your life kind of just aren't screaming out. And so you might not even know, necessarily. So that's what I think, like, as my kids got older, I started having these other needs, and I think they were always there. Just, I didn't realize it as much.
Yes. I feel like that too. I feel like the right thing didn't ever come along for me to be like, oh yes, I've got to do that.
Yeah.
And when this came along, it was like, oh yes, we have to do that.
Yeah, that's so good. So I think one of the biggest reasons also for having a job for most people is money.
Yeah. For
when
sure.
you make the decision to homeschool, you cut your income by half sometimes. One of the parents is home.
Yep.
And that can cause a lot of stress, right? So I think we just need to acknowledge that, like, working is sometimes more of a need than a desire.
Right. And sometimes you need to get creative with how you make that happen. And you guys all know that. You guys all know this. If you're homeschooling, you can't probably have two parents working the same 8 to 5 job schedule, So one of you is going to have to work at a different time than someone else, or you're going to work from home, or you're going to do side things or whatever. Yeah. And we're all just like, we have this puzzle that we're trying to make work financially, for our kids and for our own benefit too, for our own needs.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to give us all credit for that is, I think that's a skill in and of itself, and something that I think it deserves a lot of credit.
For sure.
It really does.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, so this can also be hard, though.
Yes.
It can be really hard.
Yes, it can.
to juggle all of these things. Mm-hmm. So, Maren, do you want to talk about what is hard about this for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that came to mind is time. I mean, finding time to do it is very difficult for me because I could easily fill my day up with everything at home. Easily.
Yeah.
And so to carve out time to do my own thing, to do my own job, It almost seems selfish to me sometimes. Right. And I have to be very conscious about saying that's not selfish. I mean, it's good for everyone that you know, like we said, I'm not giving you all my energy and time all the time, you know, and so it's just for me a constant negotiation in my mind.
Yes, I agree. And, you know, like I've said before, I said this a couple weeks ago, I say it a lot. When you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to other things. So when we said yes to doing this podcast, or when you say yes to whatever job you're doing, you know, you're not just going to easily find time for that. I mean, it has to be a conscious decision. Other things are going to get cut out. And I think there has to be real good communication about that. Right. Because otherwise people can feel slighted, or like, what do you mean this isn't happening anymore? Mom's not doing all these things. You know? So I think that is definitely what's hard for me too.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's so true. That good communication is so important there. I feel like I could do better at that. But also, like you said, I think it's so good for my kids to see me carving out that time to give my energy to something different, something, you know, different. So I'm glad they see that in me too. Yep. Yeah. And that they see how it brings me life too. So I'm very glad for that. But, you know, at the very moment that it's happening, when somebody needs me and I'm like, I can't help you right now. And then that look on their face or whatever, it's just, that's heartbreaking to me. And also we also we don't have a place that we go necessarily to go work. So it's sometimes
it's all right here.
It's all right here. And so there is sometimes, you know, somebody talking in my ear while I'm typing something, or, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So that gets so that's where, you know, that time really, I need to work really hard at that and find time where it's just me sometimes.
Right.
So things actually get done. Another thing that I think is hard is just the energy that I use sometimes for other things. Can, you know, it can sometimes take away my energy. So like even when I am here, I might be tired, or I need time alone after, you know, a podcast
after working
or something. After podcast or something.
And I think at least in my family, the culture has been like, when mom's away, she's doing something for herself.
Yes.
And so like a lot of times I'll go away to work on the podcast. And I'll come back, and then I'll need to be away again for my alone time.
Yes. And those are two different things.
Those are two different categories. And I think sometimes my family, and this is not their fault. This is just because we're all adjusting to this new normal.
Right.
Just they don't really understand that yet. They just see me away and think, oh, mom's doing her thing away and she's going to come back nice and refreshed. And
right.
And that doesn't happen most of the time, because when I work on the podcast, that's an exciting energy thing for me, but I'm an introvert, so it's like zaps my energy.
Yep.
And I know it does for you too a little bit. I mean, it's exciting, but it also is draining. And so so I do need to also be carving out time just for myself to be alone.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where the communication comes in. Like this time that when I'm away, that's for this, and then now I need this. And I mean, it happens with Sean too. I mean, we all know when he works during the day and then he comes home and then he needs some time alone at some point. I mean, that's
for sure.
really important, and the kids understand that, but that's because he's been doing that since they were born. You know, they know that that's happened every day. So we just have to kind of change the communication and the expectations there. So
yeah, and I really want to model that for my kids. I want them to know that, like, when they get older, they also need time to themselves. And it's important to ask for that and take that because you need it. And so I want them to think that's normal, to just be like, hey, I really need some time alone now.
Yes. Okay. So that brings me into this other thing about being present. And I think that's a hard part of this too, because if I'm working sometimes during the day and I need alone time sometimes during the day, then when I'm with my kids, I want to be really present. And for me, that is hard because sometimes I'm thinking about the podcast.
Yeah.
Or thinking about the other things I could be doing right now. And there's so many things I could be doing for my job right now, or
Right.
at any given moment.
Right.
And so I have a real hard time just like blocking that out and being with my kids, being with my husband, just having fun in the moment. And sometimes it's hard for me to even think about playing a game because I'm like, I can't play a game. There are 20 things on my to-do list. Not that I'm going to get them done, but they're on there. And so I am working really hard to be conscious of that right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm working on that too. I'm working really hard on that. I think with the kind of work that we're doing where it's at home, it is so hard because the lines are blurry. And you might be like done with your work, you put it away, but then you sit down and you get like a Vox or a text or something like needs your attention right in that moment.
Right.
Or it maybe doesn't need your attention, but you're excited about it and you want to talk about it. And so it can be really hard to, and I don't think it's just us. What's comforting to me is I don't think this is just us. I think everybody feels this way.
Yes. And adults have a lot of stuff to do all the time.
Well, right? And I think in our connected world, we're in this world that's just so connected. And I just think people have a hard time being present no matter what situation they're in or what job or who they're with. It's just things ding all the time and need your attention.
Yep. Yeah, and having boundaries is more important than ever, I think, right now. Yeah, for sure. And I want to say, I think this happens even if you don't have an official, job. I didn't even know if our job is official. I mean, we're not. we're kind of paying to do our job.
I think it's official.
Okay, we can make it official right now. But I think any parent probably can relate to this. I mean, I have always felt this way. Like, even when my kids were very young, I just thought, there's always laundry to do. There's always a kitchen to clean. There's always food to make. There's always a grocery list to fulfill. Vacuum, floors to vacuum. I mean, there's just always something to do. Yeah. Besides spend time with their kids. So, like, just managing that has always been a challenge for me, and now, like, especially.
Right. So, this kind of goes into how do we make it work?
Yes.
We've already talked a little bit about that. Do you have any ways that you want to talk about how you're making it work or how you're not doing what you'd like to do?
Oh yeah, I think this is going to be more of what I'd like to do. What I have done from the time we started the podcast until now is I've squeezed it in. I squeeze things in. And I think I'm kind of turning this corner where I have to have, like, I don't know, office hours or something. So I'm kind of in this transition period where in the past I've just squeezed it in before, when my kids are just waking up and everybody's real tired, I get stuff done. Or at night when Sean is putting kids to bed, I'll get a few things done. Or quiet time in the middle of the day, I'll I just squeeze things in. I just do a few things here and there.
Right.
And then so that's probably what I've been doing the most right now. Right.
Okay.
Since we started.
Okay.
How about you?
I haven't called it squeezing it in, but that's a good term.
Yeah. Write it down.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
So what I've tried to do, and I'm not that great at, but I've tried, is have separate, like a separate block of time.
Yeah.
Mom is going to work now.
That is what I have not really done.
Yeah. So everybody know that this is what I'm doing. And then if they want to talk to me or need me during that time, I try really hard to be like, remember, I'm working. I trust that you can figure this out on your own, but when I'm done, I will come and help you. Obviously, if it was something that they really need my help with, I could. Yeah. But I try really hard to keep those boundaries clear. It is tough. I don't have set office hours.
Yeah.
or work time. I just kind of announce it when everybody's kind of doing their own thing too. Like if everybody else is doing screen time, then I might do some work or something.
Right. So can I ask, what do your kids do during that time?
During the time that I'm working?
Yeah.
Gosh, my kids are older now. So this is also like this is part of my journey.
Yes.
Is that when my kids were younger, I didn't feel like I did this very well or could do this very well. When my kids were younger, I did have a part-time job, and I know you've had some part-time jobs too, but I had a part-time job teaching online. And this is when my kids were all babies. I did not do that well at all. I had a very hard time working and being at home with them at the same time. But now that they're older, now I felt like, okay, now I could do this again. I feel like now's the time when they are capable enough that and more independent that I could actually make this work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you can't make it work otherwise or that I couldn't have made it work, but this has been the right time for me. So anyway, long story to say, my kids are older now. They're 9, 11, and 13. And I feel like they're pretty self-sufficient. They do have screen time, like an hour a day. But other than that, they're working on their own projects or
that's so great.
Outside or whatever and they're fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Why?
awesome.
What do your kids do when you're working?
Well, so my kids are on the whole 2 years younger than yours.
Yeah.
11, 9, 9, and 7. So we're not there totally yet, for sure. Just recently, I've had them do other things besides like a movie,
screens,
or games, or like screens. So just recently I've been like, okay, you have to do these chores and then like read for 30 minutes or something, and then then you can do what you want. But yeah, I mean, and I don't want to fill up my kids' days with screens either, and yet I don't know, I definitely don't want that anymore as much, and especially as I'm working more and more, I don't want to add more screens to the day.
Right.
And I feel like, so I can only do more and more if my kids are like ready to do something else.
Right.
So
that's
where we're at. And then and then the other thing is, well, and this hasn't happened recently, but I want to say 2 years ago, this worked out with my husband's schedule, is he took like Wednesday afternoons off. And well, shouldn't say he didn't take them off. He just came home early that day, and then he would take the kids on a little field trip.
Yeah.
On Wednesday afternoons, and then he'd bring them home like 3 or 4 hours later, and then he'd go back to work. So he would just do his work in the evenings instead of the afternoon that day, which worked out great. It was just so nice. It was so nice, and it hasn't worked out since in his schedule. But man, if I could make that happen again, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing that I have done that I have to do more of, and not feel guilty about, is delegate.
Yes.
And so that means delegating things like to your partner. So even though Jeremy is working full-time outside the house, so am I, and we're homeschooling our kids. Like, so we both have a lot of this full-time work. He wants to be involved.
Yeah.
And I want him to be involved. And so I'm trying to think of ways that he can take on some responsibility, even if it's really small.
Yeah.
It does help. It adds up and it helps.
Totally.
So he does some math stuff with the kids just because he's actually really into math.
That's so good.
So he does some math stuff with the kids kind of in the evenings. He just does it. He also has some books that he's really into leadership and like character development. And so he has some books that he likes to read to the kids. So sometimes he reads stuff like that to the kids. He also does take them to work. We've worked out a schedule where they're going to go with him every other week for like an afternoon.
So great.
To his work.
That is
and they're going to do work there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that has helped too. It's good for everybody.
Yeah.
It's good for everybody.
Totally.
And so I would encourage you to try and find just even small ways that you can make that happen.
That's so good. And I think even housework, I think when I told Sean, this was before we were even married. I was like, before we were probably even engaged, I was like, just so you know, I know I'm going to want to stay home with my kids. When I have kids, I'm going to want to stay home with them. I just knew from the beginning. And I remember having conversations, thinking with him, and we were deciding like, well, if I'm not going to work and make money, then we aren't going to be able to pay for like people to come and clean our house or, there are things like that. So, and at the time I was like, I don't care. I'll do it. It's totally fine. I will do everything. And now I'm kind of like, okay, now we're both doing work outside of the home, really. And so like, I think more that the home responsibilities have to be divided a little more between us or, or something because, and I think a lot of that has just happened naturally.
Yeah.
With Sean, he picks up a little, a few more jobs here and there. He's been doing that gradually.
Yeah.
Just naturally. But I think it's really worth a conversation for sure to have.
For sure.
Like I can't keep doing all the stuff and all the homework, all the home things. And so like I think it's so good to have a clear conversation about like what you can handle and what you can't handle there.
For sure. Yeah. I was going to say, and I've said this before too, but like now that my kids are older, I'm trying to have this attitude when I see a mess, like when I see the kitchen's a big disaster.
Yeah.
My first thought is, I got to clean that.
Yeah.
Like that's my first thought. And then I have to go, oh no, wait, we all live here together. There are 5 of us who make these messes. It is not just me.
Yes.
Like I can say, child, I want you to do this.
Yeah.
Or I can say to everybody, hey, look, I see the kitchen is a mess. I don't have the time or energy or whatever to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I need a couple of you to step up and do it. Luckily, my kids are older and it's working better now. And I know that's hard when they're young.
Yeah. I see glimpses of that working. I mean, my oldest is great at that. As soon as I say there's a need, she's there. And so I just have hope that my other kids are going to happen. Going to get there.
It's going to happen.
Yes. Okay.
It's going to happen.
So I am and I was just thinking this actually yesterday. I was thinking, if I'm the only one though who cares what our house looks like, then that's like a problem because I mean, it's never going to get cleaned if I'm the only one who cares about it. So like I want everyone to like take ownership in that and
you want them to see the mess and just
be part of it. Yeah. But on the other hand, they are never going to care as much as I care about it. So it's never going to look the way I actually want it to look. And I have to be okay with that too.
You do.
Yeah. Right. I have to let that go because it's either like the podcast or having a clean house all the time, right now. And so it's just, I can't do it all.
Or spending time with your kids or having a clean house.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Or going on an adventure or whatever.
Right.
So you do have to make those decisions.
Totally.
And it doesn't, I've been very lucky because Jeremy is kind of a neat freak and that's both, good and it's hard and easy, or it's like, it's fortunate and unfortunate.
Totally.
He really does value a clean house. And so he does lots of work to help, which I don't want to say help. He takes a lot of responsibility with that. And I appreciate that so much. I do feel added pressure because I know he likes it clean. So then I do feel some pressure to actually not us like totally trash the house during the day. So that part can get challenging. But I am fortunate that he is like totally up for doing lots of housework.
That's really great. So great.
Yeah.
And other things to make it work. We last year had a co-op for our kids. And during that co-op time, we got work done. And I think co-ops are a wonderful way for kids, to get some outside of home time and for us to get work done. If possible.
Yeah, I mean, if possible. It didn't work that well.
For us.
Because we were also running the co-op.
also running it. But I just think, I think if you're homeschooling and you have resources outside of home, I say take advantage of them.
And if you can, take advantage.
If you can. Yeah, for sure. I mean, what a great way for kids, to learn something new or do something or make new friends or whatever. And plus you get time, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when my kids were young, I had a friend who we just traded. She took this is when I had one. Yeah. So it was kind of easy. Well, actually, she took my one for like an afternoon, and then I took hers for an afternoon. And it was glorious, like when she took mine.
Yeah.
I was like, this is amazing. And then when I took hers, I was like, this is so hard.
Yeah.
This is 2 babies. This is so hard. I could barely handle it. But now I look back and laugh. But anyway, I think even if you can trade with a friend for an afternoon, or like you were telling me earlier, if you can get a babysitter, if you can, if you can do that, do not feel guilty. You need to take that time.
Oh my gosh,
I did that so much when my kids were little.
I did that too, and I wasn't getting paid to do anything at that time either. Like I didn't have a job outside of the home, and yet my husband Sean pretty much said, we are getting a babysitter. And I said, we can't afford it. And he said, I don't care. We're getting a babysitter once a week.
Yeah.
And it's happening. Because otherwise.
That's so important.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. One last thing that you and I do together is once a month, every, the first Saturday morning of every month, we get together and have a meeting.
Yep.
And that is like set in stone. It happens. And I love that it's so consistent. And now everybody just expects it and knows it's happening. And everybody's fine. The whole family's fine.
They are fine one Saturday morning a month.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So that has been really good too. And I say, like, I don't think we should do that more often necessarily, but I think we could. And it'd be fine.
Yeah,
it would be fine.
Right.
It would be fine for them.
Yeah.
If we did that more
It would be. And it might actually be good. You know?
It's probably good. I know. It's good for everybody.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's good for them to see us doing something different.
Yep.
It's good for us.
Yep. It's good for the dads to spend time with their kids like that. You know, it's great. Win, win, win. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So if you have any like advice for us or tips or strategies for how you make this work, we'd love to hear, because we are, newish at this. So we're just figuring this out.
We would love
so
to
please share with us. Probably in our Facebook group. You can always DM us, but probably in our Facebook group we'll have a posting for this episode.
For sure.
We'd love to have you share there how you're making this work, because we've heard from a lot of you that you are working too. So all right, let's move on to loving this week.
All right, LTW. Angela, what are you loving this week?
Okay, I'm loving a recipe.
Ooh, great.
I got it from my friend Sandy. Shout out Sandy.
Hey, Sandy.
So, I have a bunch of restrictions on what I can eat due to some stuff. So, this I can eat, and they're pumpkin bars.
Ooh.
Grain-free pumpkin bars.
Nice.
It's fall, so, everything pumpkin.
Are you into pumpkin stuff, or is this just a new thing?
I'm not super into pumpkin, but I was at Sandy's house, and I tried some, and I was like, I could make these. These are pretty good. And I am into squash. We get a CSA, and we get lots of squash. So a lot of times when there's pumpkin recipes, I just use squash.
Great. And is that a good substitution for you?
Yeah,
good.
Totally.
Okay, good. Awesome.
That's fine. So this has pumpkin, almond butter, honey, not a lot of honey, only a third a cup for like this pan of bars.
Okay, not bad.
2 eggs, and then just spices, vanilla, salt, stuff like that. So really, it's like almond butter, pumpkin, eggs, and honey.
So when you say pumpkin, do you mean pumpkin or pumpkin puree or
pumpkin puree?
Okay. Yep.
So I did actually buy cans because I wanted to make that. Well, actually, my daughter made this for me for my birthday, because she wants to make like a birthday cake or treat or something. Yes. And since I can't have much, I was like, you don't have to do anything for me. It's fine. And then she was like, no, I want to find something. So then when I had these, I was like, oh, this would be a good one. So it's from Detoxinista. I'll put a link in the show notes. They're just called grain-free pumpkin bars. I can't believe how good they were. They're tasty.
They're
awesome. Really good.
I can't wait. I'll try them. I'd make them.
There is a separate recipe for this like glaze that goes on top. I didn't do that, but you could. So
I'd be interested in the glaze.
I'm gonna make this a few more times.
Okay, great. That's great. It's so interesting. I'm not usually into pumpkin. Well, I'm not into fake pumpkin spice lattes or whatever, like the fake
Yeah.
pumpkin. I'm not into it, but I've seen a few people, on social media making some kind of like pumpkin bread or something. It just looks so good. So maybe this is the thing I should try.
This is good. I also I have a recipe for pumpkin bread that I just put gluten-free flour in. And then I also just use squash instead of pumpkin. So we just call it squash bread. Yeah. And we make it a lot because we get a lot of squash in the fall.
Great.
And it's good. Add a few chocolate chips.
Ooh, yeah.
It's pretty good.
There you go.
Put the butter on top.
Ooh, yeah. That reminds me of your poetry tea time the other day.
I know. That was squash bread.
Oh, it was. Okay.
I put the thick butter on top.
It was a lot of butter. That was so funny that your daughter took a picture of it.
I know. She was like, "Mom, do you want some bread with your butter?" And I said, "It doesn't spread."
Yeah, I know.
I wanted to spread.
Actually,
it's the same amount.
I shouldn't say it was that much butter. It wasn't. It was just like a stick. It was just like a slab. Butter just looked like it. I shouldn't say it was a lot.
There were like there were teeth marks through the butter. That's how I eat it. I can eat butter, so I'm gonna eat it.
Yeah, eat it. Enjoy it.
I do. What are you loving this week, Maren?
I am loving a new show on Amazon Prime Video called Forever.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I have to tell you. Okay, so it is starring Maya Rudolph.
Oh, I'm watching it.
And Fred Armisen, both from Saturday Night Live. And then, Fred Armisen had his big show, Portlandia, too. So, they're both just amazing comedians and actors. I love them both. Now, the show is so different than what you might think they would make together.
Okay.
So at first I was like, do I love this show? I cannot decide. And it took me the whole season. They have one whole season just came out. It's 8 episodes. It took me the whole season to decide if I loved it. And then finally by the last episode, I decided I love it. So it's very slow moving, lots of dramatic pauses and dramatic, maybe some, like emotional music in the background or whatever. But I don't know. I just really like the style of the show. It's like, it's got like this 1950s mid-century modern homes, and the lighting is just very interesting, and the whole premise of the show is like nothing you've ever watched. So I like that it's different.
Is it funny?
It has funny, quirky times. It's funny, but not in a laugh out loud funny. It's very subtle funny.
Yeah.
And dramatic. It's a little, it's got some drama and funny. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how to explain it. It's like this new genre, I would say.
All right. Wow.
It does kind of remind me of the show that I loved probably a year ago, Last Man on Earth. That was with Will Forte, also from Saturday Night Live. So
yeah,
you can see a trend in what I like, but
yeah. Well, I'm always looking for a good new show. I don't always watch them.
Yeah.
But I like to know what's out there and my options.
Yeah, you may have to give this one a few episodes, or maybe the whole season.
Well, I love Maya Rudolph.
Me too.
So much.
Me too.
Her 7th Generation commercials.
I know.
There is nothing better. I can watch those forever.
Yes.
I'm gonna go watch that again.
Me too.
If you have not seen it, if you have not seen hers.
Oh yeah.
Go watch them.
She
has a whole bunch of them. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. If you want to follow us on social media, we would love that. You can follow us on Facebook. You can just search Homeschool Unrefined. You can like our page. We also have a Facebook group called Unrefined Homeschoolers, and we'd love to have you there for some great conversation. Mm-hmm. You can also follow us on Instagram. That's our favorite place, at Homeschool Unrefined. And we also have a website, homeschoolunrefined.com, where you will find links to everything that we talked about. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening.
Homeschool Unrefined is created and produced by Maren Gorse and Angela Sizer. Ethan Miller is our editor, and Amanda Ginn is our VP of all the important things.